Want to bring a little coaches chat to you guys today. I was asked by a few of the athletes to discuss cross training, why it's important for triathletes. I think the specific question was why burpees are good for triathletes. So I'll try to address all that. I'll try to keep it kind of short, kind of simple. But you'll see here on the board, I'm sure this is going to anger a few people, but I've got the word CrossFit and I've got the word fit X'd out and training in there. So I prefer cross training as opposed to CrossFit. Now let me kind of break that down for just a second. I do have some knowledge of the CrossFit world as well as cross training, and a lot of the movements they do in CrossFit are good for endurance athletes. I'm talking your runners, cyclists, swimmers, triathletes. Um, the thing is that a lot of the workouts aren't something that they created. You know, a lot of the movements aren't things that they created. They're things that have been around for years and years and years and years. But they've taken them, added a fun, cool environment to it, and that's all well and good. It's got its place. But there's not a place in a triathlete's or an endurance athlete's there's not a place for flipping tires. Let's just use an example. There's not a place for this really high extreme interval training, which is what a lot of CrossFit is. I've looked at a lot of heart rate data over the years and of CrossFitters that are wearing a CrossFit, and it's a lot of these. Let me grab my pen. I'll show you. So if you have, let's just say this is your threshold line here, and you do your warm up. It's in here, and then they'll do this. It's a lot of this stuff here. Okay, so a lot of really extremely hard stuff. That is good to an extent. We do that in a functional, with functional purposes during training season when we do intervals and stuff. But as far as doing that with weight training, I don't think that is as beneficial as other uses of your time for endurance sports. So that being said, I'll kind of get right into it. Now, let me back up just a second though before I go much further. I'm not knocking CrossFit, okay? I think any type of strength work, if it is well coached and well monitored and with some good oversight, is good. I just don't agree with all the movements they do, and more often than not, I don't agree with the coaching oversight that leads to injury and so on and so forth. So CrossFit itself is not bad. Any type of cross training is good. However, we want to monitor what we're doing and making sure that it is benefiting our run form, our swim stroke, our bike pedal strength, things like that. So I prefer to call it cross training. Now what we want to do is, and I don't know if you guys can see this because I'm working with these ghetto lights, but functional movements. That's one of the keys to all of this is making sure that every time you're moving weight from point A to point B, whether it be body weight, barbell or dumbbells or anything like that, anytime weight is moved, that it's moved in a functional pattern. So, for instance, there are some movements out there in strength training that I don't believe are beneficial for triathletes or endurance athletes. I'm not saying don't do them. I'm just saying you should do them a lesser percentage of the time. Things that really need focus are going to be either glutes, so more specifically the glute med. That's something that of all the run form analysis I've done, I think I've only found, I don't know, maybe one, maybe two athletes that didn't need substantial glute medius work. And that's a lot of lateral movement, so it's a lot of this like side lunges, different things like that that are really going to work this area, any type of movement back and forth, because as an endurance athlete, we are straight line athletes, right? We can go one direction really fast, but you ask us to change direction like basketball or soccer, and you're sore for a freaking week, even though you're about to do an Ironman or you just completed one. You're in phenomenal shape, best shape of your life, and you go to make that sudden move. We're not good laterally, and so we need to reinforce that. The lateral movement provides our stability. So the hips being our powerhouse when we're running, and we start to fatigue, and this knee comes through. A lot of times, you can't see it on the screen, a lot of times that heel wants to kick over and it'll kind of clip your other calf. That's a great sign of a glute medius weakness. Now, I'm not going to get into all the workouts that you can do to correct that kind of stuff, but I do want to reinforce that it needs to be functional movements. So again, there's no need for a triathlete to flip a tire 45 yards and then sprint 100 yards back. That's just my opinion. The next thing you got to do is you got to be smart about it. Now, just like any other training, I've got periodized or phased. So just like any other training, you have to build into it. You can't go to the gym right away and grab that weight and just start smashing that 35-pound dumbbell on curls. There's no point in that. You're going to end up hurt. So So make sure you're smart with that. Make sure you're building it up properly. We do have a couple of different strength training programs that athletes go through the past couple of years, and have seen substantial gains. It's like a 28-week program, and once they get the mid to late half of the season when their A races are, they're pretty strong. Those that stick with it, and strength is not just power. Strength is not just being able to lift more, to push that pedal harder for longer. Strength also comes in by way of injury prevention, which is huge. So, and then the last one we'll talk about is going to be targeted unilateral and dynamic movements. Meaning, if I sit there in the gym all day long and I just steadily do this, right, back and forth, this bicep's going to get real big. What's this bicep going to do for me in a triathlon? Not a whole lot. I mean, there's a little bit of activation in the swim, maybe a little bit if you're trying to get up a hill on the bike, but for the most part, that's just kind of a wasted movement. But there are very good isolated or unilateral movements, things that don't require, don't require more than one joint to move. And so when I'm saying that, the first one that comes to mind that I think are beneficial to fall under both of these, I think that the military press is very and have some more chats about it. But that was a great question posed by one of our athletes, and I hope I answered some of your all's questions. Thank you, guys.